So the other thing that gets turned upside down if you're making it a priority to connect with sacredness is that instead of avoiding flaws and avoiding blame and avoiding shame and avoiding appearing foolish, you actually go right into it. Because you appreciate that what the real enemy is. You appreciate that the hypnotic phenomena of numbing out and distracting and making you superficial, following hopes and fears and all such things, you realize that's the enemy as opposed to that's your best friend. You realize fear is never your friend. And so, and you see the profound consequences, the horrific consequences in terms of suffering throughout history. And the insanity, the absurdities of suffering that's happening all around us all the time. And it's actually nip and tuck whether the human race will even survive in its current form, without some big upheaval. The earth might shrug us off. Might shrug off 90% of us as a process of healing. So, when you realize the superficiality of the egoic mind that makes us miss all of that and put off acting with integrity, then you're completely comfortable with the notion of being stupid. Because you want to learn about the real stupidity. You want to learn about it so thoroughly that it can't get you. And the essential stupidity is being caught by fearful thinking. The essential stupidity is being caught by what's going to happen to me.
You do that really well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of practice. So you don't try to hide. You don't try to hide the way in which you get caught by egoic foolishness and stupidity, because you realize that trying to hide it and protect it just perpetuates it. So you're not afraid to appear foolish. You're not afraid to appear stupid because you want it to be out in the open where you can look at it. You're not afraid to have somebody catch you being greedy or lustful. You want it to be out in the open so you can be awake to it and take the opportunity to clear up the deluded trances that have you involved in it. And you pay attention to every area of your life. You pay attention moment by moment, because every moment counts. It is everything is significant. How often do you thank a doorway for being a doorway? And that doorway is there because of the sacrifice of millions of lives and also the efforts of people acting out of their own goodness to create that doorway. It's a constant interdependent flow. And when you're in egoic minding mode, you just trample on all of it as if it's everything is your entitlement. And there is, there's no sacrifice that would be too great to serve you. You know, there's no sacrifice too great to serve us. So to communicate with archetypal consciousness, it's living consciousness. It's not a dead object, like the concept is a dead object. All these concepts, if you don't enliven them through effort, if you don't make it your living substance, it's just jewelry for your ego. It's just dead objects, pretty dead objects. It's jewelry for your ego. And key to practicing is remembrance. You have to remember, because we're already way down the road in terms of being involved in a very profound, habitual way with egoic thinking, with open fear. And so essential is constant remembrance, which you can cultivate with anchors. So, for example, you can practice remembering before you begin any activity, to remember to connect with your higher self, to remember to appreciate the grace of the gift that you're about to engage in, whatever's involved in the activity. It could, and you can set up your day and define archetypal areas. You don't have to just use the archetypal areas you find in a book, like the archetypal areas that are in the zodiac. The zodiac, for instance, is an archetypal setup, slicing up the pie of life in these 12 different areas. You know, the Enneagram is an archetypal setup that slices up personality qualities. So is Myers-Briggs. Anything that recognizes patterns is archetypal. That's what archetype means. It's universal organizing principles, of which there is one. There is one universal organizing principle that's multifaceted. So, but you don't have to go by the book. You can determine your own archetypal areas in the way in which you practice. For example, you can recognize that getting dressed in the morning is an archetypal arena. And so before you get dressed, you can make it a ritual as opposed to a habitual pattern. The difference between a habitual pattern and a ritual is consciousness. You bring heartfelt consciousness to a ritual, whereas a habitual pattern, you're asleep. You're asleep in ego. You're handling sacredness, but you're asleep because you're fantasizing your ego fantasy of hope and fear about what's going to happen to me today. And not even feeling the aliveness in your hands and your feet. So you can frame all ritual areas, like the ritual area of getting dressed, the ritual area of preparing a meal, the ritual area of shopping for a meal, the ritual area of driving from your beginning point to your end point. You can even make a conversation a ritual arena. Of course, have to be subtle about it, because otherwise people might think you're weird, unless they're doing it too. But you can recognize that there's all day long you have activities that have a beginning and a middle and an end. And so you can put a circle around that, and that's an opportunity for ritual versus just going through it, sleepwalking and habitual behaviors.